A girl in a wheelchair goes to the dance hall, but nobody will dance with her. Finally, a lad comes over and asks her to dance, so they twirl around on the dance floor for a while. When it gets to closing time, the girl asks the lad to bring her home. They have a nice chat on the way home, and before long are outside her place. The guy says to her, "Listen, any chance of a bit of jiggy-wiggy?" The girl says, "I eat, but you can't come in. I live with my uncle. But you know what? You could hang me here on the railings and we can have a go." So they get at it and have a few nice minutes. When they're finished, the lad takes the girl down, puts her back in the wheelchair, and wheels her to the door. The uncle opens and says, "Well, laddie, thank you so much. You're a real gentleman." The other fellows always left her hanging on the railings. There was this blonde city girl who was out driving and found herself in a rural area. She noted a farm animal standing next to a farmer and stopped the car to ask the farmer a question. "Sir," she inquired, "why doesn't this cow have any horns?" And shook his head for a moment, then began in a patient tone. "Well, ma'am, cattle can do a powerful lot of damage with horns. Sometimes we keep them trimmed down with a hacksaw. Other times we can fix up the young noose by putting a couple drops of acid where their horns would grow in, and that stops him cold. Still, there are some breeds of cattle that never grow horns. But the reason this cow don't have no horns, ma'am, is because it's a horse." One evening, a man walked into a brothel and told the madam he wanted a woman who had AIDS, hip, and herpes. He showed her a wad of money, and the madam told him to go and sit at the bar and she would see what she could do. Knowing she had only disease-free ladies, she asked one of the girls to go and entertain the man and to pretend she had the diseases he mentioned. Well, they ended up spending the night together and he made good on his bill. The madam's conscience got the better of her, and she confessed to the man that the girl had none of the diseases he'd asked for. The man just shook his head and said, "Well, she does now." The soldier ran up to a nun. Out of breath, he asked, "Please, may I hide under your skirt?" "I'll explain later." The nun agreed. A moment later, two military police ran up and asked, "Sister, have you seen a soldier?" The nun replied, "He went that way." After the MPs ran off, the soldier crawled out from under her skirt and said, "I can't thank you enough, sister. You see, I don't want to go to Iraq." The nun said, "I understand completely." The soldier added, "I hope I'm not rude, but you have a great pair of legs." The nun replied, "If you had looked a little higher, you would have seen a great pair of balls, too. I don't want to go to Iraq either." There was once a woman who was married to a man who would make extremely loud and disgusting farts every morning as soon as he woke up. Every time he did so, the woman was disgusted and told him, "One of these days, you're going to fart your guts out." One morning, the woman got up early to cook a turkey for a party they were hosting that night. As she looked down at the turkey's guts and entrails that she had just removed, she got a mischievous little idea. The woman took the turkey entrails and guts and walked upstairs to her bedroom, where her husband was still sleeping. She carefully pulled down his shorts and placed the turkey guts inside them. She smiled and went back downstairs to finish her work. A few minutes later, she heard her husband wake up with his usual sonic boom fart, immediately followed by a blood-curdling scream. She laughed as she heard him run into the bathroom. A short while later, he came down to the kitchen, still panting from the scare. She tried to hold back a smile as she asked him what was the matter. This was his reply. "Honey, you were right. You said one of these days I was going to fart my guts out, and it happened. But by the grace of God and these two fingers, I was able to get them back in." A woman pregnant with triplets was walking down the street when a masked robber runs out and shoots her 3 times in the stomach. Luckily, the babies are okay, and the surgeon decides to leave the bullets where they are as it is too risky to operate. All is fine for 16 years, and then one daughter walks into the room in tears. "What's wrong?" asks the mother. "Well, Mom, I was having a wee and this bullet came out," replies the daughter. The mother tells her it is okay and explains what happened 16 years before. About a week later, the second daughter walks into the room in tears. "Mom, I was having a wee and this bullet came out." The mother tells her what happened 16 years before and tells her not to worry. Another week passes by and the son walks into the room in tears. "It's okay," says the mother. "I know what has happened. You were having a wee and a bullet came out." "No," says the boy, "I was having a wank and I've shot the dog." One day, a father of a very wealthy family took his son on a trip to the country with the firm purpose of showing his son how poor people live. They spent a couple of days and nights on the farm of what would be considered a very poor family on their return from the trip. The father asked his son, "How was the trip?" "It was great, Dad. Did you see how poor people live?" The father asked. "Oh, yeah," said the son. "So tell me, what did you learn from the trip?" asked the father. The son answered, "I saw that we have one dog, and they had four. We have a pool that reaches to the middle of the garden, and they have a creek that has no end. We have imported lanterns in our garden, and they have the stars at night. Our patio reaches to the front yard, and they have the whole horizon. We have a small piece of land to live on, and they have fields that go beyond our side. We buy our food, but they grow theirs. We have walls around our property to protect us. They have friends to protect them." The boy's father was speechless. Then his son added, "Thanks, Dad, for showing me how poor we are." A hotel guest calls the front desk and the clerk answers. "May I help you, sir?" The man says, "Yes, I'm in room 858. You need to send someone to my room immediately. I'm having an argument with my wife, and she says she's going to jump out of the window." The desk clerk says, "I'm sorry, sir, but that's a personal matter." The man replies, "Listen, you idiot. The window won't open, and that's clearly a maintenance issue." Three married men are sitting in the pool club and arguing over who has the worst marriage. One of the men says, "I have it the worst. My prudish wife won't sleep with me more than once a month. She refuses." The other men shake their heads. One of them asks, "What did you do about it?" The man says, "I slept with that horny blonde over there by the pool table. Unlike my wife, she'll do anything." The men laugh. The second man says, "You think that's bad? My uptight wife won't even sleep with me once a year." The other men shake their heads, and one of them asks, "So what did you do about it?" The man says, "I got my rocks off with that same slutty blonde over there by the pool table. She'll literally do any guy." The men laugh. Then the third man says, "That's too bad for you guys, but honestly, I definitely have it the worst." Men say, "What's the problem with your wife?" The man says, "Well, for one, she's blonde, and secondly, she's always down here playing pool." A male patient is lying in bed in the hospital, wearing an oxygen mask over his mouth and nose. A pretty young student nurse appears to give him a partial sponge bath. Nurse says, he mumbles from behind the mask, "Are my privates black?" Embarrassed, the young nurse replies, "I don't know, sir. I'm only here to wash your upper body and feet." He struggles to ask again, "Nurse, please check. Are my privates black?" Concerned that he may elevate his blood pressure and heart rate from worry about his privates, she overcomes her embarrassment and pulls back the covers. She raises his gown, holds his manhood in one hand and his privates in the other. Then she takes a close look and says, "There's nothing wrong with them, sir." The man pulls off his oxygen mask, smiles at her, and says very slowly, "Thank you very much. That was wonderful, but listen very, very closely. Are my test results back?"